Greetings, fellow traditionalist Catholics. This is Sergio Becerra II, and welcome back to my channel. So, this will be our last video of our series on calls for a new crusade against the forces of the satanic pagan religion known as Islam. So, I want to talk about one European ruler that lived in the mid 15th century in the Principality of Wallachia, which is now modern day Romania. That will be none other than Prince Vlad Tepes III, aka Vlad the Impaler, the real Dracula. I know some of you are going to be asking, why would you do a video involving Vlad the Impaler? Well, let me tell you. As part of the modern day world, we don't have any leader like Vlad that can protect Christendom, even the West. I know it sounds crazy, but we don't have a modern day Vlad the Impaler. We don't have another Dracula, and I know that the idea of having to impale your enemies. I know, I know in Vlad's day it was really barbaric, but no way nobody would ever do that in this day of age. But we don't have anybody like Vlad that could defend Europe from Islam. We don't even have our own Vlad Dracula here in the United States. But let's look at Vlad the Impaler's historical background. Number one, he was the second son of Vlad II Dracul. Dracul in Romanian meaning dragon. Vlad, who took the name Dracula, meaning son of the dragon, even though some say uh, son of the devil, because the dragon itself has an association with the devil. If anybody's familiar with Vlad the Impaler's history, as we all know, when he and his older brother were boys, they were taken as political prisoners by the Ottoman Empire. I guess you can say like an insurance policy, as an example, by their father, Vlad II. So I think this was Vlad II's way of give you my sons as long as I gain support from you in order for me to keep my throne and all that. Now, here's another thing about Vlad II. Vlad II was a member of a military order, a monarchical chivalry order known as the Order of the Dragon, which I would have to say is my number one favorite military orders, in which it no longer exists today. It was formed in 1408 by Sigismund, who was the Holy Roman Emperor, King of Hungary, and Duke of Luxembourg, who formed this order. Now, it's not like the Knights Templar where you can join by having to give up your way of life, living your life of poverty and chastity. No, this is different. You had to be a monarch or a nobleman to be part of the order. But it was up to the emperor to make you as a candidate and make you a member. We know that monarchs like King Alfonso V of the Spanish Kingdom of Aragon, King Henry V of England, and then of course Vlad II of Wallachia. And I know there are other members, part of Poland, Siberia. They were also members of the order. But that is like one of my favorites. I know there are still some military orders that still exist today, but they're not like they were in the past. More like um, defending the teachings of the church. Orders such as the Teutonic Knight Order and the Order of St. Lazarus. I know those orders still exist today. Now, I did see on social media posts that a new Knights Templar order has been formed, but it's not like the original order like it was in the past after the first crusade, where you had to be a warrior monk that had to live a life of poverty and chastity, as I had said. But no, these are like different Templars that you could just simply join. And I've seen videos where they actually do walk into St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. So yeah, it looks like we do have a new Templar order. Also, you also have another military order known as the Holy Order of Christ, which was formed in the 14th century as a new form of a Knights Templar order, since the King of Portugal, King Denis, in the 14th century, refused to pursue and persecute any surviving members of the original Templar order when it was first disbanded by Pope Clement V in 1307, after it was dissolved, disbanded, and after its original uh, knights were burned at the stake for false accusations of heresy. But again, back to Vlad. Vlad II was born in Wallachia in 1431. Second son of Vlad II, member of the Order of the Dragon. Now, Vlad III was never a member of the Order, which I assumed for a long time he was, but never. But he did take on the name Dracula. But after his father, meaning son of the dragon. Now, his brother Radu, both of them were kept as political prisoners under the Ottoman Empire for a long time, even raised and trained in the Ottoman armed forces. Even Vlad even adopted their way of execution by impalement, if I remember that correctly. Which later on, when Vlad became the new ruler of Wallachia, he began impaling those that betrayed his father when he was assassinated by going after nobles that had claims to the Wallachian throne, known as boyars. So on one morning, on one Eastern morning, I'm sorry, one day, which was on an Easter Sunday, he invites like 500 boyar nobles to his court for a meal, and at one point has them all impaled on on wooden stakes because of the betrayal of his father. Now, as for Radu, who is Vlad's brother, he stood behind in the Ottoman camps. No doubt, there's no doubt he converted to Islam and then became part of the Ottoman military, because Vlad had reigned 3 different times, and of course his brother later took the throne when Vlad went into exile, and then later got it back by taking down his brother. Now, Vlad's older brother was also killed along with Vlad II when they were, well, both Radu and Vlad III were imprisoned. So both his older brother and father were assassinated by the boyars. And at one point, Vlad II had envoys from the Ottoman court that they demanded that Vlad pay homage to the Sultan Mehmed II. Not only that, but also demanded somewhere between 500 to 1,000 Wallachian boys be trained in the Ottoman military camps so they could purposely invade not just Wallachia in Europe, but also have Wallachian boys be fighting against their own homeland. Vlad, no doubt, said no. But another thing that did happen was um, he demanded that these envoys remove their turbans from their heads when going before him in his court. But as part of the Muslim religion, it's a custom not to take off their turbans, and they have to be on their heads at all times. So, what did Vlad do? since he considered this as an insult, he had his own guards drive nails through their skulls. That way, they remain there permanently, as a way of not respecting him and his court, and had them sent back uh, to the Sultan. And then when it came to fighting on the Ottoman Empire, when asking for help from the Holy Roman Empire and other Christian nations, they didn't give him any support. So Vlad had to go in alone and take him on. And what did he do? Well, wasn't just the boyars he went after. No doubt the Transylvanian Saxons, which are of German origin, were also hailed. But even his own subjects, if I heard correctly, if I understood correctly, I know I need to like fully read Vlad's past, his history, whether he did impale 20,000 Ottoman soldiers or his own people, but it is said that he impaled his own subjects by means of warding off the Ottoman forces, including the Sultan, in which he created a forest of the impaled. One thing I forgot to mention when it came to the boyars that were impaled by Vlad, some he spared because he put them through slave labor by building a fortress between the borders of Transylvania and then, of course, the capital of his country. Uh, I always forget Târgovești, which is the capital of Romania, which he can look upon the capital, and of course Transylvania, which is in the mountains. Castle Planari, which has actually been considered the real Castle Dracula, even though some say that Bran Castle is the real Castle Dracula in Romania. But apparently, Bran Castle was built in the 13th century. This was 2 centuries before Vlad's time. Now, another thing is when it comes to Vlad's religious background. Now, it is said he was raised as a Catholic, but I'm not sure if he may have been raised as Eastern Orthodox. But from what I understand, when he lost his throne a second time and went into Hungary, he ended up being imprisoned by the Hungarian king for about a decade. And then the only way for his release and get back his throne was to convert to Catholicism, which he did, by the way. And rumor has it he may have been taken to Rome to be absolved of his sins. Now, I'm not sure of that. I have to look into it, but some sources say he may have, but there's like no proof if he ever did. But he did convert to Catholicism as a way of regaining his freedom from the Hungarian king, and then finally went back and reclaimed his throne a third time, but then suddenly died. No one knows for sure if he was assassinated or died in battle, but most say he might most likely been assassinated. But as for the force of the impaled, uh, not sure if he impaled 20,000 Ottoman soldiers or his own subjects. But I gotta look into that further because I know I haven't had enough time with doing information myself because I work a regular job and I do this part time doing videos. But yes, we do need a new Vlad the Impaler. We need someone to defend Europe, defend Christianity, defend the West, defend all of Christendom from the forces of the Ottoman Empire. Another thing that has come to mind, I know some have talked about this. If some of you have watched my previous video on King Charles meeting with anti-Pope Leo the 14th, uh, remember Leo the 14th is a Protestant heretic, and he's supposed to have the title Defender of the Faith, which he is not, by the way, because since he has been siding with Muslims in his country, it kind of like forfeits his title as king and should be removed from the throne. Now, it is said that Charles III is actually a descendant of Vlad the Impaler through his father, Prince Philip, who was the husband of Queen Elizabeth II and Duke of Edinburgh. If that's true, which I kind of believe he is, that King Charles III is a descendant of Vlad the Impaler, that would mean that both his sons, the future heir to the throne, that would be Prince William and his second son, Prince Harry, and then of course Prince William's eldest son, Prince George, are descendants of Vlad the Impaler. Therefore, they be carrying on um, Dracula's bloodline, if that is true. But King Charles, since he's a Protestant heretic and since he's been siding with Islamic heathens, it kind of basically forfeits his title as Defender of the Faith because he's not defending the Christian faith that he was sworn to uphold and protect, and of course forfeit his title as king. Vlad the Impaler, uh, he's like the only one so far that has done the job of defending Europe by taking on the Ottomans in a small little nation in modern day Romania. And right now, we don't have a Vlad the Impaler in this day and age, whether it's in Europe or in the United States. We don't have one, but we do need someone strong enough to combat the satanic pagan forces of Islam throughout the world, not just in the world, but it's becoming a problem because of all this mass migration in Europe and the United States, and we need to address that fast, and we need to do it now. And right now, we don't have a Vlad the Impaler. Like I said, I'm not sure if Vlad was raised as an Eastern Orthodox Christian, but all I know is that he did convert to Catholicism in order to get back his throne in Wallachia. Because when I looked up his religious background, it did say Roman Catholic, so I'm not sure if he was really raised as a Catholic or even Orthodox. But as far as I know, he did have to convert to Catholicism by the Hungarian while being held captive by the Hungarian king in order to maintain his freedom. So it looks like he may have been raised as an Orthodox, if that's true, and then converted while being held captive in Hungary. Or if he was raised as a Catholic the entire time. And as for military orders, uh, like the Templars, the Teutonic Knights, the orders of the Holy Order of Christ, and the Saint Order of Saint Lazarus, we need those orders back. The Order of the Dragon, I know it's gone, but rumor has it they still do exist, but mostly do like charitable work. If I understand, if that's true, if the order does exist, but we need another Dragon Order. And as for the Order of Malta, which is another order, which is their job to uphold the church's teachings, the Roman Church's teachings, we need them in place. I think the Order of Malta is part of the Order of St. John, if I remember correctly, but we need orders like that to help defend not only the church, but Western Christendom, Europe, and the United States. We need them back because if I were the Pope right now, I'd be rallying for crusade, as I have said already. I'd be calling for crusade and be rallying up the faithful to this cause to defend Europe and the rest of the world, calling for a world war crusade under Leo XIV, who is an anti-pope, not a real Catholic, but a heretic and apostate. He's weak and a coward. He won't do it. I know he won't call for a crusade. But we need to take matters into our own hands and we need to call for a crusade and do it ourselves. Because we can't deal with this anymore. And it's becoming a problem because we are seeing radical Islam take over Europe and the United States fast. And if we don't act within the next 10 or 30 years, it's over. And it's getting scary by the day. Because as I have said in previous videos, especially the one on the possibility of another Constantinople, we could fall. And the media is not covering this. Only social media outlets are the only ones covering this, and it's getting crazier by the day if we don't act fast. And we need and the world does need a new Vlad Dracula. Because honestly, Vlad the Impaler I will admit, is one of my favorite historical figures. A man that was really tough. Now, even though tyrannical and barbaric for what the things he's done, I understand that. But when it comes to defending his homeland from the Ottoman Empire, that I support because Vlad himself is a freedom fighter and a nationalist. That's the only thing I support him for. But his tyranny and barbarism, for like the use of impalement on those that have betrayed his father, uh, well, I understand what he did was payback, but I'm I'm not gonna like support for what he did to the boyars, but what he did to the Ottomans was like a lot more bigger, which I support of. But we need a new Vlad Dracula, and but right now in this day and age, we don't have another Vlad the Impaler. There's no one, but all we can do is take matters into our own hands, and we need to fight off Islam like fast and now, before it is too late. Not just the West and the United States, but the whole world could fall. Because here's the thing: if the world falls and the West falls to Islam, the devil wins completely. Because Islam is nothing more than a satanic pagan religion. And if we don't combat Islam, as I have said just now, then the devil wins. The devil will win, and we are at a loss for good. Tell me what you think. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and comment below and tell me what you think. All right then. This wraps it up for this series on calls for new crusades to defend the West, the world, and the church. So hope to see you next time. Hopefully, come up some with something new to discuss, and we'll take it off from there. All right. See you next time. Take care now. Bye.